Today we have a 2014 Chevrolet Sonic with the 1.8 liter Ecotec engine, and the customer's complaint is that the check engine light is on and it has the P0171 system tooling stored in the computer. And so today we are just going to be doing the diagnostics and seeing what's going on from there. Welcome back to the Moose Mobile Auto Repair channel. And so now the customer has already provided to me some parts. This is I believe, an aftermarket upgrade valve cover. So uh, the original uses the plastic valve cover, which incorporates the PCV valve inside there, and these are known to fail. And this one is made out of metal, I think aluminum, and so we may try to put this on after I finish and confirm the diagnosis first, just to make sure. And they also provided to me the purge valve as well. There are a few common problems with these vehicles, so there's a few things that are known to fail. So I will discuss about them later in the video, but for now we are going to start with the diagnostic work and go from there. So this vehicle has 100,409 kilometers. So we're going to start the vehicle. See that the check engine light is on. We're going to scan for codes. We are scanning the system here. Automated scan. This is the 1.8 liter, the diagnostic. This is the LUW RPO code. GMs have something called an RPO code, which usually it's like 3 letters, because there are different variations and trims associated with these vehicles. So every vehicle has its own unique RPO code for the vehicle, because there are different design and parts that are utilized on these vehicles. So we're going to go to a system scan. So now we're going to go into the engine control module, ECM, automatic transmission. Stop start system is not equipped. Read a fault code. This cycle. P0014 exhaust camshaft position. System performance. Heated oxygen. There's a bunch of codes here. These may be historic codes. There's a bunch of codes here. So we're gonna go to DTC display. Right here, P0171 fuel trim system lean since DTC clear. So we are going to focus on this one here. So we are going to read the data stream. I'm gonna have a look at the fuel trims to see what the fuel trims are like long term and short term. I'm just going to focus on those just to give me an idea if we have a vacuum leak or something. So right now, long term is at 9, short term at 4. I'm going to raise the RPM a tiny bit, probably at 2,000 maybe. See, long term at 20, 19, short term minus 16, minus 9. I'm just putting it at roughly at 2,000 RPM. I'm going to let go of the gas and it goes back down closer to 0. So as the engine warms up, it looks like there could be a very small vacuum leak, but the fuel trims are not that high. Unless I hit the accelerator, it starts to take away fuel. So it goes into negative fuel trim. So at idle, so you have long-term 8, short-term 4, and it changes. Typically, if you're within plus or minus 8 or 10 absolute maximum, usually you should be okay. Any more than that will cause problems. Some vehicles, it doesn't trip the system 2 lean code until it's like a certain threshold, like a plus or minus 25 or 27 or something, till it's like extremely high, and it will trip this code. So now I'm just going to go under the hood just to have a look at the valve cover area to see if there's any suction on the PCV area, and see if I find anything. We probably have at the moment is a small vacuum leak. So it probably gets worse as the engine warms up, I believe. So we are just going to have a look at it and see on what we find. We're just going to remove this plastic cover here. Plastic piece. I believe there's a tiny hole here for where the PCV valve. In some cases, you may hear a whistling noise if it's bad enough. In other cases, you might not. Sometimes you can put your finger here to feel if there's any suction. There should be no suction at all, and it would tell me that the PCV is faulty on this. So I only feel a tiny bit, so I think it's bad, but we're still going to smoke test the system anyways, just to be sure. It should be closed up. Shouldn't allow any air to escape from here. I'm having a look at the purge valve here. I'm just using a needle nose pliers to push down on the tab because it was very difficult to take off. So now it's loose. So we're going to unplug this, and then I got this off of the bracket. We are going to unplug this part here to see if there's any a suction in the purge valve as we are running the engine. When you disconnect the electrical connection, the computer is no longer commanding this to open or close. So when you disconnect it, there shouldn't be any suction coming out. And if there is, then it would mean that this is leaking, and this is also a contributing factor to causing that uh, P0171 system to lean code. So I'm going to disconnect the connection here, the pipe or hose, and then we are going to start the engine and see if there's any suction. For this part here, I already removed the blue clip that was the inside the hose here. So I just used a pick. You can use a pick of some sort to take it off, and then there's a tab in the back here which you push to take out. Trying to push on the tab by hand in order to get this off on this side here. Here you go. You need to push really hard in the back here. Push after you get the blue uh, retainer clip out. After you get this clip out by using a pick, you need to push back here on the hose firmly, really hard on the tab, and then you're able to push that out. So right here you have the connection here. There's a white clip here. You just need to push firmly here to push it in, and then squeeze it out, and you will be able to get it off. And this here, I'm just showing you guys again because I didn't show you guys on camera earlier. When you put this back in, this clip just it slides in afterwards. With the electrical connection and the hose disconnected, we are going to start the engine, and we are just going to feel over here to see if there's any a suction. If there is, then it's leaking. This is also a contributing factor if you have an evap code such as P0442 for evap small leak, and also sometimes P0496. The purge valve can cause problems and create a vacuum leak. So now when the engine is running, have a feel here, see if there's any leaks here on the connection. If you're not sure, sometimes if I'm not sure, I'll have to take off my glove to see if I can feel anything. I'm not really feeling anything at this moment. If anything, it might be a very, very, very slight amount, but I'm not really feeling anything. So I don't think the purge valve is defective on this. However, the customer provided me a purge valve to replace anyway. So I don't know on what they want to do. I will have to get their approval to see if they want to do it. So this is fine. There's nothing wrong with it. We are going to shut the vehicle off, and we're probably going to smoke test the rest of the system just to see if there's anything else leaking. I haven't went for a proper road test yet to also to check the mass airflow sensor readings to see if that's working properly, because that can also cause a system 2 lean code as well. So now it seems like that the purge valve is okay. I'm going to smoke test the system just to verify and make sure on where the leak is coming from, if there's any, and just go from there, because I don't want the customer to throw parts and waste their hard-earned money on this. So I want to make sure everything is okay before I start doing any repairs. So now I've hooked up the smoke machine now. So we're going to smoke the system and seeing if there's any leaks here. We're going to smoke the system now and just wait for the smoke to circulate. So what we are going to do next is we're gonna open up the throttle body all the way with the ignition on but engine off, and then we're gonna smoke test it then, because the throttle body is only very partially open, so I gotta make sure that the throttle plate is open all the way. So this noise is just from the throttle body. I believe the actuator. There's something in the throttle body. The ignition is on wide open throttle, engine off. So we're going to smoke it and see if we see anything. I'm going to shut it off after. There's too much pressure inside. This runs at 1 psi pressure, I believe. Trying to see if there's anything leaking from here. Not seeing anything here so far. I just have the oil cap cover off just to see the smoke. Some of the intake valves are open. I just want to make sure that the smoke is going through the system. It's catching through the valve cover, so I don't see anything leaking. That's from the valve cover. Close this up. This cap is not very great, so possible that could cause a vacuum leak as well. So this oil cap can cause a vacuum leak as well. If the seal is no good, that can cause problems too. Dipstick tube. These oil is leaking from there. And you gotta be careful. So yeah, oil was just coming out, so you gotta be careful when you put the system under pressure when you're doing a smoke test. So I'm gonna have to clean up the oil leaks there. I removed the dipstick tube, and I just wanted to show you guys that the O-rings on the dipstick tube can cause a vacuum leak as well. I'm not seeing anything here. It seems like the valve cover is okay, the intake is okay, and the hoses, the air duct. I'm suspecting that the possibility that there could be an issue with the mass airflow sensor. That's my last thing to check. I probably have to go for a road test and see on what's going on. So now I'm just having a look at the mass airflow sensor values, grams per second. Now usually when it's idling, it should match the approximate engine size. So this is a 1.8 liter. So this should be roughly 1.8 or maybe 2 grams per second when idling. Just earlier it was at 4.5 or 4.6. So we're just going to have a look at the mass airflow sensor because I didn't find any leaks in the system. So I'm suspecting that the mass airflow sensor could be bad. And when I try to rev the engine, it only goes up a tiny bit. It doesn't go up that much. It was it was at it only went up to around 10 earlier. So I'm at 3,000. Now this is 9.65, 3,000, 9.41, 9.33. So that's not very much. So now I'm probably going to go for a road test and confirm to see if the mass airflow sensor is operating correctly because I'm suspecting that there could be an issue with it. I did have a look at it off camera, then I put it back in. I haven't cleaned it up yet, but I may try to clean it to see if it helps or not. Otherwise, if it is bad, when I confirm on the road test, we are probably going to replace the mass airflow sensor because I didn't find any leaks, and a P0171 can cause the this trouble code can also be caused by a faulty or bad mass airflow sensor. So I'm just having a look at all of the variables here and just going from there. Yeah, that's it. So right now I'm just under the regular OBD in the scan tool. So right now the mass airflow is 4.5 grams per second. Long trim 6.27, 4.6. Short term 0 or 3.9. And I'm just having a look at the O2 sensors. Bank 1 sensor 1, bank 1 sensor 2. So I just came back from the road test, and the mass airflow sensor seems to be reading okay under hard acceleration or wide open throttle, probably around 70 to 80 grams per second, and that seems normal to me. The car seems to be accelerating relatively okay. I'm thinking that now there could be an issue inside the Purge solenoid. I believe probably stuck closed or something, or flowing too much. So I'm going to have a look at it and go from there. I'm under actuation test now. So I'm going to the evaporative emissions system. We're going to go to the purge solenoid valve. We're just going to have a look at this and see on if we find anything. So now I'm back under the hood, just having a look at the purge valve, just to see if it's even working. So although I didn't see or feel that it was leaking, but these purge valves sometimes they leak ever so slightly, so it can be very tricky to diagnose on this. So anyhow, I have the scan tool here. This just allows me to increase or decrease the purge flow on this. So when I increase it, you can hear the solenoid uh, clicking and working. I can put my hand here, see that it's working. So, but this doesn't really tell me how much it's flowing, if it's flowing too little or flowing too much. So sometimes it's hard to tell. Uh, you may need to vacuum test it with a vacuum gauge if you can, but I don't think I'm going to be able to show that uh, at this time. So anyhow, I'm just trying to conclude on my diagnostics here. I'm just gonna release control. So I'm just going to conclude on the diagnostics here, and that's it. The customer already provided to me the purge valve from the GM dealership over here. So we can go here to the evap purge slash seal. It's pretty much the same thing as the other option here. Said you can seal a system or not. Said it's venting. There's a percentage on how much you want it to command. I'm just putting in the new purge valve in here just to show you guys something. So at the moment, I'm just going to conclude my diagnostics. I'm starting to believe that the purge valve is defective, and sometimes even if you smoke the system, you still may not see any leaks. And I know on these particular GM vehicles, sometimes the purge valve can be stuck open and you won't see any smoke or feel any suction on the opening on where you test when the connector is unplugged and the engine is idling. Usually if you feel any suction there, it means that the purge valve is leaking and it's no good over here. I have the old part here. So if you feel any suction here, it means that the purge valve is no good. But there are sometimes you may not even be able to feel it or see any smoke coming out from here. And usually these purge valves, they leak ever so slightly that you may not even be able to to find the issue during the diagnosis. So usually these go bad very often. So I know that's the problem there. So we are probably going to be replacing the purge valve, and the customer wanted to replace the valve cover with an upgraded aftermarket one. So I'm probably just going to do that next, and then that's it. I'll most likely put that in part 2 or part 3. Probably one part for the purge valve and one part for the valve cover. So I already have the new part installed back in here, so we're just going to put everything all back together now. Remove the rubber piece. Remove the rubber piece here because the new one it comes with one already. So we are going to take that out. Install this. If you need to, you can spray some of the silicone spray if you want. Install the connector. Make sure this is in all the way. Install the connector, the hose connection until it clicks in. This connector is already in. You need to install the blue retainer clip. Hard to show you guys everything on camera here, so install the retainer clip back in or the locking clip. Then we are just going to clear the codes, run the engine for some time, see if the system 2 lean code comes back. If you guys want to know the part number for the purge valve, it's right here. The codes have been cleared already. So we're just going to run this vehicle for some time. And then later we'll go for a road test to make sure that everything is okay. Then later we are going to go for a road test to make sure that everything is okay before we hand this vehicle back to the customer. So I'm just double checking the readings on the scan tool again, just to make sure that things look normal. I'm just idling the vehicle at the moment. Short-term and long-term fuel trims seems to be okay so far. I know that earlier it wasn't too bad earlier, but at one point it jumped to a substantial amount. Now you can see long term 3.9, short term 3.9. So that seems to be okay. The issue was not happening too much earlier. The fuel trims were still somewhat uh, within the threshold or the specifications. They were not an excessive amount, because usually it would be like somewhere like 20 or plus 20 or something like that. But these ones were majority of the time under 10, because this one probably had a very slight vacuum leak caused by the purge solenoid. The mass airflow sensor only monitors metered air that's coming in, so anything that's unmetered, the mass airflow is not going to know anything about. So I know I've been kind of all over the place, but for the sake of making a video, I just wanted make sure that I've done all of my checks before I call anything. Although the customer already provided me his parts Canon parts, so he did a little bit of a diagnosis himself too. But I just wanted to confirm before I put any parts in, because I'm a lot more confident putting parts on a vehicle in which I know that I've done my diagnosis on it, and then I can say okay, I'm fine to put this part in, and so that way there won't be any trouble or problems between the customer and I. So I'm still running the engine. I do know that the new purge valve is quieter too compared to the old one. I did use a vacuum gauge to apply vacuum on the one side, but I can't really feel anything. I'll show you guys that in just a moment, just for experimental purposes. So I'm still idling the vehicle. Everything seems pretty normal here. Short term 0.7, 2.3, minus 3.1, long term 3.1. So this is normal. I'm happy with this. And I don't know if the customer still wants me to replace the valve cover. Anyways, I'm probably going to do that as well. I already hooked up a vacuum gauge onto the old Purge solenoid. So this is where we took off the connector here, and we took off this pipe or hose connection to feel for suction. So I'm just going to apply vacuum going this way, and usually if you feel anything here, typically the purge valve is defective. And the problem with these purge valves is that sometimes you may not even feel suction, and they could leak internally, like very slightly. So even though that mechanically is working properly when commanded with the scan tool, but still sometimes they can leak, and you may not be able to feel anything from here or when you do a smoke test. So anyhow, I'm just going to apply a little bit of vacuum to this, probably like 15 or 20 inches or something. I would have to check on what the specifications are for uh, for how much vacuum to apply on this. So maybe like 20 inches or something of vacuum. I'm just using the MIDI vacuum gauge. So I'm just going to apply again because I disconnected it. So I'm not able to feel anything here. It holds vacuum still, but still, when I disconnect this, you'll hear the air come out. So that is one test that you can do, and the other test is using a high level scan tool. I know that sometimes you may be able to manually to command the solenoid by using the power probe or something, but you have to be careful with that when you apply power or ground. I'm not a big fan of using that uh, method. But anyways, I already replaced the purge valve. I ran the engine for some time. So far, everything looks good. The customer told me that when they when they clear the codes, the system to lean code would show up almost like right away, like maybe after a minute of running the engine. So that's not happening now. So I think it's fixed, but they still want to do the valve cover. So now I just replaced the purge valve, clear the codes and everything. I ran the engine for maybe approximately 10 minutes, and everything seems to be okay now. There's no codes or anything. The fuel trims seems to be normal and close to zero. So I just wanted to conclude the diagnosis today. This one was not a very obvious problem because I smoke test everything. I smoked tested everything, and I try to check to see if there's uh, any leaks from the purge solenoid itself, and I didn't find anything there. And I checked everything, uh, tested the mass airflow sensor, and that seems to be working properly during the road test. So there's not much else that you can do. The purge was working mechanically on the scan tool earlier. So these purge solenoids, they work uh, intermittently sometimes. So sometimes they still leak, even you can't find anything in the diagnosis, but that's the cause of the problem in this case. But we are going to see and to follow up, go for a road test to to confirm, to be 100% sure, and then that's it. So I'm going to put the other part of doing the valve cover because the customer wants to do it anyways, even though there isn't anything wrong with this one at this present time. But I do know the plastic valve covers, they go bad over time, and this vehicle is almost 10 years old. That's it for today. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please don't forget to give it a like, and please consider subscribing to my channel if you're not already a subscriber. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a good day and take care.